Hi, Jessica. Yeah, slides, they take time. Um, so we'll just maybe just go through a couple of little tips, I guess. Um, so the first slide that we're doing in this song would be, I guess, the second string, 2 to 4. So maybe a good place to start would be, you could start by doing a 1 fret slide, say from 2 to 3 with finger 1. And I guess the deal is, I would go back to, we always go back to the ultimate, like, fundamental thing. So, for instance, remember that when we're fretting a note to start with, before we do any kind of a slide, um, remember that out of all this fret area that we have, we want to be pressing on this upper part here. Don't want to come from back here, or even really from the middle. We kind of want to always be up. The finger shouldn't be necessarily touching the fret, but that really does make a pretty meaningful difference. It's just getting that down, getting that to be a habit, to be kind of always have your fingers up towards the lines. Okay? So another thing, again, going back to just basic fundamentals here, is how hard you're pressing with that finger. And we used to do a little exercise you might remember, which was let the pressure off of your finger so that you just get a buzzed note. You can hear the strings it's just making no note because I don't have enough pressure here yet. But as I continue to pluck the string here, and I'm going to add pressure very slowly, and eventually that note's going to get clearer and clearer, and then when it gets as clear as I need it to be, I'm kind of taking note of how hard I'm pressing there, and it shouldn't be very hard at all. You should find that if you're in the right spot, you can get away with very little pressure. Okay, so that's another thing you want to take into account when you first pick up your guitar to practice, is try to keep that feeling of having a very light touch with this hand. Okay, so basically when we're doing a slide, starting with just a 1 fret slide, we're just doing this little practice of where we're just kind of jumping over that 1 fret. And notice this is also where, again, we're thinking about staying on the line. So when I jump over this fret, I'm not just trying to get just over the fret, I'm trying to get over the fret and to the next fret. And you should feel that with your finger, although earlier I did say you don't want to necessarily touch the fret, but you can touch the fret. You can at least practice this motion of jumping over the fret and then kind of feeling that fret a little bit when you hit it with your finger. So over and then boom. And that feeling of the fret bumping under your finger and trying to figure out. So really, so the big question is, how hard do we need to press this as we go over the fret and land over here? I think what you could do is start as light as you can, and when you come over, you can afford to maybe let up a little bit to make the bump easier. But remember that you want to get towards the line, and then you want to maybe give it a little bit of extra pressure when after you go over the fret. So you play the note, and remember that this all can take place over a pretty long time, meaning the time that you pluck the string, and then you go over. So you don't necessarily have to pluck the string and then immediately be really in a rush to immediately get that slide over. Pluck the note first, and it can sustain for a second before you do the slide. And allow yourself the time to just do that slide very relaxed and as light as you can while you can still keep that note ringing. Because that's the key, is pick the note, and when you come over, the key is that note still ringing? And it might be quiet at first. If you are kind of waiting a second before you slide, you pick, letting it ring, then very, very gently slide over. Aim for the line, if you find you're getting a buzz when you land, try getting, close to the line as you can and add a little bit more pressure after you get over that hump. So light over the hump and then add a little pressure when you get to the fret. So listen how I'm letting it ring for a second before I slide. Okay? Not just, don't practice like that. Okay, so, and if I add another one, then, we've got two humps to get over. And again, you can kind of let your finger ease over the hump, but then when you get over that second hump, if we're doing a 2-fret slide here now, then we want to come back and give us a little bit more pressure at the end, again, trying to get towards that line. And again, let it ring for a second and then come over. Pick, let it ring, aim for the line. You can actually feel that fret catch your finger and stop it if you come in with the right amount of pressure. Again, it shouldn't be a whole lot, just enough where the fret kind of stops your finger. You can see it's doing that to my finger right now. I'm moving it up and it's stopping it. If I don't add pressure, it kind of just wants to flop over it. But if I add just a little bit of pressure, it wants to stop where that fret is. So pick, easy, add pressure at the end. Pick, easy over, add pressure at the end. You can even experiment. If you're going through the amp, if you're using your amp and you turn up the overdrive, a lot of distortion and stuff like that, that'll make your notes sustain and last a lot longer. And you can use that as a tool when you practice this. So you can't hear these notes very well as they go up, but if you have a lot of distortion, you'll hear those notes. It'll sustain for a long time. And you can practice just going over the hump, over the hump, over the hump, over, 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 and feeling your finger catch on each fret as it goes up. Have that feeling of catching each fret. Catch, 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 catch. Okay? All right, well, I think those are some pretty cool tips, but let me know if you continue to have issues. We'll continue to talk about it, all right? I hope you have an awesome weekend. See you soon.